From Arkansas's breaking news leader, Fox 16 News at 9 starts now.
Fox 16 News covering all the big stories tonight.
Unfortunately, there have been fatalities as a consequence of Hurricane Sandy.
Superstorm Sandy knocking out power to millions of people along the East Coast.
Public transportation remains closed until further notice.
And continues causing problems as the storm system moves across the country.
Keeping our doors locked and we're looking out the windows, keeping our windows locked and everything.
And a convicted killer on the loose for more than 24 hours. We'll show you where it all started.
The search for a killer continues more than 24 hours after he escaped from the Tucker Max unit in Jefferson County. Good evening, I'm Donna Terrell.
I'm Kevin Kelly. Curtis Reese Jr. left the prison on top of an 18-wheeler. He then jumped off in Ferda at around 1:30 Monday afternoon. Reese has been in prison more than a decade. A jury sentenced him to 40 years in prison for the murder of two teenagers back in 1998. Fox 16's Caroline Whiteman joining us live tonight outside the prison with more on Reese's history and the search to find him. Caroline?
Kevin, crews are not giving up the search. They're using all available resources by ground and by air. Earlier today, I did talk to some of those involved in the original case that helped put Reese behind bars, who stressed the importance of making sure Reese finishes out his sentence. Law enforcement spent a second day searching the farm fields near Ferda for escaped convicted murderer Curtis Reese. Reese shot two people in the head, killing them in this isolated field in Saline County in July 1997. Lieutenant Scott Courtney remembers working the case.
I can't tell you how many interviews I did in that 30-hour period from the time we received a report until we located or determined who the suspects were.
Deputies arrested Reese and an accomplice and turned the case over to then Chief Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Brent Standridge.
He essentially has a 40-year sentence, which he must serve 70% of that before he's eligible to be released.
Both Standridge and Lieutenant Courtney say having Reese on the run is a huge disappointment after all their hard work on the original case.
I don't want him out in public. He's, either way, he's been convicted of murder, which is not somebody I want running around who has not served his time like he's supposed to.
He has been convicted of 2 homicides, and just, be on the lookout as far as his description and everything goes, and call the authorities if they see anyone that resembles that description.
So the search continues to make sure Reese is put back where he belongs.
And we will continue to search for him here for as long as we believe he's in this area.
I did talk to one of the parents of one of Reese's victims, Eric Ogden. His father, Ken Ogden, says Reese's escape from prison is just too painful to talk about. Reporting live in Jefferson County, Caroline Whiteman, Fox 16 News.
Yeah, I know this is one of those cases where a lot of people are on edge. Do investigators believe Reese just might try to head back to Saline County?
Well, investigators say that Reese does have ties to the Benton community. It is something they're looking into, but they're not releasing too much information about that right now, Donna.
Okay, they probably want to stay hush-hush on some of these things. Caroline Whiteman live. Caroline, thanks.
In the Fox 16 crime alert, Little Rock police are looking for the person who shot and killed a man today on the city's southwest side. 43-year-old Darren Williams died at around 11:30 this morning on Sandhurst Road. Officers found Williams lying just inside the front door of an apartment with a bullet wound to the head. Right now, detectives are searching for the driver of a gray 2000 Cadillac seen leaving the scene just after the shooting. Now, this brings the number of homicides in Little Rock to 44 this year. That's 8 more than last year and the highest number of homicides since 2008. Fox 16's Katherine Johnson joining us live with why police believe the numbers are climbing and how one family is struggling to heal from 2 deaths due to violent crime. Katherine.
Kevin, it's no secret that violent crime is up in the Little Rock area. Police say the mystery, however, is how to stop it and why it's happening.
That was about the worst day of my life.
Rufus Cyrus's house is filled with pictures of his family. One of his favorites is a portrait of his grandson, 14-year-old Decree Thomas, murdered last summer.
At a young, tender age, like that, you know, to be taken away, you know, was very devastating, and we feel it all the time.
Thomas is one of 12 murders from this past year Little Rock police are still working to solve.
They're pulling their resources from everywhere trying to solve the homicides.
Since the beginning of the year, police have worked 44 homicides. That's 8 more than last year. Sergeant Cassandra Davis says the number is higher this year because many of these murders were double homicides.
There's a lot of things that has to be done, more things than just one person can handle.
A tax passed in September 2011 enabled the police department to hire 50 more officers and alleviate the workload. But the officers are still in training and have yet to hit the streets.
We do need the officers now. However, they have to be trained.
In 2008, Cyrus lost his son Angelo to a shooting.
Back in your mind, you never forget. You learn how to forgive, but you never forget.
To this day, police have yet to make an arrest on that case as well. He says he can't afford to wait any longer.
You know, it's hard. It's a bitter pill.
Risking another loved one's loss to violent crime.
It's something that you live with every day.
Now, 30 officers hired from that tax will complete their training the first week of December and hit the streets. A second wave of officers will then begin training the next week. Live in Little Rock, Catherine Johnson, Fox 16 News.
Catherine, you certainly feel for Rufus Cyrus, along with the other family victims who have lost loved ones throughout this year, 44 in all, as you mentioned. But these new officers, as a result of this sales tax, you mentioned they're going through training right now. Are they just going to be thrown straight into the mix to try and fight the violent crime, or is there a process involved?
That's the plan, Kevin. They'll have about 3 months of probation where they'll be following other officers on the street to make sure that their training is complete and there aren't any glitches with that. But Little Rock police really want to make sure they get more patrols in localized areas where they're seeing more crime in Little Rock that they just can't get to. Also, more mobile units to deter people from participating in violent crimes in those targeted areas.
Yeah, makes sense. Catherine Johnson, live in Little Rock this evening. Thanks.
This weekend up here, and it wasn't cold at all, and now it's freezing.
I'm never used to it when it hits. This is almost like from fall to immediate winter, like overnight.
Hurricane Sandy has triggered floods, fires, and devastation up and down the East Coast. But one of the biggest concerns for hundreds of thousands of people in West Virginia is massive amounts of snow that continues to fall. As much as 5 inches have fallen in parts of the state so far. Some areas are so treacherous, big rigs and emergency vehicles have been forced to park in the middle of the roads and the highways. 340,000 people are without power. A blizzard warning remains in effect through tonight. The New York Stock Exchange will reopen for regular trading tomorrow after being shut down for 2 days because of Sandy. The exchange says its building and trading floor are fully operational. This was the first time since 1888 that the exchange remained closed for 2 consecutive days because of the weather. All bridges in New York are also reopened, but both the Holland Tunnel and Brooklyn Battery Tunnel will remain closed. Water levels reached the top of the 12-foot, 8-inch tunnel entrance. And take a look at this. Trees littered the street of this neighborhood in the Bronx. Despite all the downed wires, the power stayed on. CNN reporter Damian Watkins shot this video of the superstorm Sandy's aftermath this morning, and live wires were in the streets, and power crews hadn't even reached the area yet. Well, New Jersey Governor Kristi says politics is the last thing on his mind. The presidential election is only 1 week away, but Kristi says he's got too much on his plate to deal with the campaign right now. The governor makes it clear his state comes first in terms of his list of priorities.
I don't give a damn about Election Day. It doesn't matter a lick to me at the moment. I've got much bigger fish to fry than that. So do the people of the state of New Jersey.
Earlier, the governor praised President Obama for his handling of Hurricane Sandy.
Superstorm Sandy gave you a first-hand lesson on safety around down power lines, and we've got the proof for you. Take a good look at this video. You can see this car right there being electrified. This taking place in Brick Township, New Jersey. No word on any injuries, but it doesn't look like anyone was in the car. Now, keep this in mind, though. If your car does make contact with the downed line, your car could become energized. So stay in your car and roll down your window, and that's when you can call for help. You can also use a cell phone if you have one to dial 911. But boy, Sandy has certainly packed a punch. Snow, power outages, closed tunnels in New York, as we've heard, flooded streets. Is it losing its punch, or is the bigger problem the aftermath that it's left behind?
Right now, it's the aftermath. The storm itself has weakened considerably over the last 24 hours. It was still a very powerful storm system yesterday at this time. Sure. Tonight, it's much weaker. Looking at some of the strongest wind gusts associated with Sandy, down to about 25 to 35 miles per hour, as opposed to the 80 to 90 mile per hour wind gusts we were getting along the coast yesterday. Okay. So a big difference. Also, the rain not as heavy. It's turned into some scattered showers. Really, the big effect right now is some of the snow in West Virginia. But you know, this is our weather bug time lapse. This is from Ohio, and you can see that it was a rather windy and rainy day there as the storm system pushed towards the west. But the effects in Ohio, especially along the Lake Erie coast, that's where it was a little bit more intense, with some wind gusts near 60 miles per hour. Earlier in the day, those winds have subsided quite a bit. Now, as we take a look at the satellite and radar, or actually this is the radar and the actual location of the center of Sandy. Sandy is no longer a tropical system, marking the center of circulation with this area of low pressure now making its way up through Pennsylvania, pretty close to Erie, Pennsylvania, and this is going to continue to move towards the north. And this circulation, although very large, starting to spin down. Still some very heavy snows over West Virginia, occasionally getting some rain bands rotating around the storm system, but the winds not nearly as strong as what they once were. Still a large circulation here, and the center is going to move up into Canada as we go into tomorrow and lift out from the U.S., and that's going to mean lessening effects from the northeast. That storm system will continue to move towards the north. That snow will continue right into tomorrow across West Virginia. By the time it's said and done, 4 feet of snow in some of the highest elevations. We stay dry in Arkansas. A couple of clouds from time to time tomorrow. That's about it. We do have a very weak disturbance rotating around the outer edges of Sandy, bringing a few clouds, but no rain around. As a matter of fact, those clouds are already starting to thin out, but enough to keep those temperatures a little bit milder than what we've had the last few nights, still in the 50s as opposed to already down in the 40s, as was the case this time last night. So waking up to tomorrow morning, not 40s, but still cool 40s out there, maybe a light jacket early in the morning. By noon, temperatures low 60s. Coming up in a few minutes, we're talking about warmer temperatures in your 7-day forecast. I'll show you when you can expect near 80-degree warmth.
New at 9, here's what's left of a home after a fire this evening. No one was in the house at the time. The home is located on a dirt road off Faulkner Lake Road. That's in North Little Rock. Tonight, we're still waiting for an official cause.
Well, vending machines are everywhere. They're in the break room, shopping centers. They're even in most schools.
You got that right. But what about vending machines for medical marijuana? You heard me right. Coming up, why one Arkansas group is afraid of the machines and how they may end up here in the natural state.
You're watching Fox 16 News at 9 with Donna Terrell, Kevin Kelly, sports with David Rath, and Arkansas's certified most accurate forecast with Chief Meteorologist Jeff Baskin. This is Fox 16 News at 9.